Is up, YouTube? It's one Millsy, back with Hometown Commander, back for another episode of Millsy Brews, the show where I brew version 1.0 deck list of the commander in front of us on my quest out brew the Magic world. We're still running through OTJ content, and we're not done. There's so many fun legendaries in the set, and so I want to keep the content going, keep talking about new ones. And today we're talking about Riku of Many Paths, a Temur commander that's just one of each, a 3/3 human wizard. It says, whenever we cast a modal spell, we choose up to X, where X is the number of times you chose a mode for that spell. And we can do any of up to X of these. Exile the top card of your library until the end of your turn. You may play it, put a +1/+1 counter on Riku, and it gains trample until end of turn, or make a 1/1 bird with flying. What I like about Riku here is it kind of gives us some options of how we want to build the deck. Do we want to build into the exile? Do we want to build in the counters? Do we want to build into the tokens? And in all reality, I think we're going to try to use all three of them as much as we can, get as much value as we can, and try to just build a Temur deck full of modal spells that are going to be great for our opponents. So we're going to talk about all the modal spells we're going to play. I just cherry-picked a bunch. There's a bunch of modal spells you can actually play, but I'm going to pick out my favorites. We're going to talk about our real spell slinger payoffs, so when they're going to help us push towards winning the game and set up great value for us. We're going to talk about the few token payoffs we have. We have the ability to make a token, and so we can also play into that. And then we'll talk about our big spell value effects that are going to potentially help us win the game. Well, there's a lot of modal spells, but I think we really want to focus on the modal spells that give us the most utility, right? Or the ability to do the most wide range of things. So Tarka's Command is a really interesting one. Happy to see it. Finally get a deck for it in Commander personally. Opponents can't gain license turn, 3 damage to each opponent. Put a land card from your hand to the battlefield or a creature you control, get +1 and reach until the turn. A Swiss Army Knife for sure, nothing super crazy, but hey, it's still good and it can be helpful, especially because at minimum it's a ramp spell if we have an extra land in our hand. Cryptic Command's pretty fun. We could choose 2. Counter target spell, return target permanent to its owner's hand, tap all creatures your opponent's controller, or draw a card. Cryptic Command I can see as being a way to either stop something and get us a little bit of value as well, or just tap all our opponent's things down when we go in for a big attack. Flame and Nora is kind of cool. If we choose one, if we control a wizard, we could choose to instead. The great part is that Riku is a wizard, so we're all going to be able to, as long as he's out, we could choose 2. Target player draws 2 cards, destroy target artifact, 5 damage target creature. Again, all those abilities are usable, especially those top 2. There's always artifacts floating around in Commander. Not going to be hard for us to find a target there. Great Train Heist, probably one of my picks, one of my favorite cards from OTJ, and I think it really helps us here. We pay 1 red no matter what, and then there was some rules that I saw released that these are considered to be modes, so the more we pay, the more we get from Riku. Now, if I'm incorrect on that, and some of these spree cards maybe might not be as good, well, if that is still correct, some of these spree cards could be really good in the deck. But here, for 4 mana, you can untap all creatures you control, and if it's your combat, you get additional combat. If you don't want to pay that for that one, and just the middle one, 3 mana total, all of our creatures get +1/+1 first strike, which can be a really important ability whether we're attacking or defending. And then just for 2 red, we could choose an opponent. Whenever a creature we control does damage to that player, we create a tap treasure. What I like about that one specifically for this deck is we're making 1/1 birds in the air. So if we have an opponent who doesn't have any flying blockers, that could be a great one. But Green China Heist to me is a card where the more mana you put into it, the better it becomes, and it could probably just turn the tide of a game all by itself. We have a pair of commands here in Prismari and Quandrix. Prismari is one I've played plenty. 2 damage to any target, draw 2, discard 2, create a treasure, or destroy an artifact. You need to pick 2 of them. And same thing with Quandrix Command. You can return target creature or planeswalker to its owner's hand, counter artifact or enchantment spell, 2 +1/+1 counters on a creature, or shuffle up to 3 target cards from their graveyard into their library. You pick a player. I like these both because, again, all these are relevant abilities or, things we can do it at certain times, and we can keep them up and use them how we need to use them. Remember that Riku puts counters on itself, so that's never a bad target for itself. Bounce isn't bad. These things are bad, and aren't bad at all, and I like that we get to automatically pick 2 of them, meaning we get 2 different portions of Riku's effect. Reverse the Polarity is a card I've always liked since I saw it. We get to choose 1. Counter all other spells. Switch each creature's power and toughness till end of turn, and creatures can't be blocked this turn. I mean, at minimum, we pick creatures can't be blocked this turn and maybe take in a big attack. But I mean, it could lead into a lot of scenarios where we could have a ton of fun, stop someone's big turn when they storm off, or, do a bunch of other things. Sea Devil's a card that feels pretty good here. Choose one, and if an opponent has 8 or more cards in the graveyard, we can choose both. Copy target spell, choosing targets for the copy, and then create a token that's a copy of target creature. Now, with the copy, we're not casting it, so like we won't get another Riku trigger when we copy, but I think it's still important because we could do the same effect multiple times if we really need to. Sublime Epiphany, a big 6 mana modal spell. We get to pick as many of them as we want in the moment, so we can always make sure we're hitting all 3 of Riku's ability with Sublime Epiphany. Counter target spell, counter target activated or triggered ability, return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand, create a token that's a copy of target creature you control, or draw a card. I mean, great abilities, and again, in the right situations, we use them. And just to round up my picks, I mean, these are 12 of my picks of some of the modal spells I really like. Temur Charm, a classic, and of course fits the colors really well. Target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. It fights creature you don't control. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 3, and creatures with power 3 or less can't block this turn. I like this card because, again, the first effect can be a fight ability. Riku can get kind of big depending on what we're doing, and it could fight some things. The bottom one could just clear the way for us to take a big attack. And then 2 more spree cards to end it out. 3 steps ahead can counter a spell, can create a token that's a copy of target artifact or creature we control, or can draw 2 and then discard 1. And then remember, with the sprees, you can pay for multiples of them. So, I mean, it just allows you to mix and match those together. And then Trash the Town seems interesting. 2 +1/+1 counters on a creature. Target creature gains trampled till the turn, or whenever target creature deals combat damage to a player, draw 2 cards. Again, just a great ability that Riku, we might grow itself. We might have other creatures that get bigger, and being able to give them trample or the ability to just draw us when they hit is a relevant ability that I think is important. Well, let's talk about some spell payoffs. We talked about the spells. Now let's talk about the things we care about with the spells. First is Balmor, a card that I love in spell slinger decks, especially when we're making tokens, because it says whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, creatures you control get +1/+1 trample until end of turn. Well, those are 1/1 birds we're making. If we can cast 2 or 3 spells on the turn, now they're 4 ones, minus any other effects. This is going to help puff our entire board up. Gives Riku that trample without necessarily needing to use that part of its ability on the modals if we want to. I think Balmor accomplishes a lot, and it's better the wider our board gets. Gutter Snipe, dealing 2 damage to each opponent every time we cast a spell, is exactly what we want. Spread that damage out, make it less damage we need to deal to our opponents. Otherwise, Harmonic Prodigy just feels really great. In a deck where your commander's a wizard, or you have a lot of wizards or shamans in your deck, Harmonic Prodigy seems great. It's going to double Riku. It's going to double a lot of the creatures we're going to talk about here, and it's just going to make for great value when we're getting these multiple triggers and stacking up our privileges. Well, a card that isn't a wizard or shaman but feels like it's going to be fun is Calamax the Stormsire. Of course, a great teamer commander in its own right for spells. But here, whenever it's tapped, whenever you cast your first instant or sorcery each turn, we copy it and choose new targets for the copy. And where we copy something, we put a +1/+1 counter on Calamax. The deck does have a good amount of ways to copy things, and so Calamax is just going to get big. It's going to be another target for our opponents to deal with. But what I like about something like Calamax is it's an alternate commander that if our deck starts to get in trouble or Riku starts getting removed, we have other creatures that can kind of take over and give us good value. Stormkiln Artist, getting us a treasure anytime we cast or copy a spell, which is going to be done a lot in this deck. Veyron can actually double up the triggered abilities of a permanent we control anytime we cast or copy an instant or sorcery, meaning that Riku will get doubled. All these effects we just talked about will get doubled, and Veyron's going to work in really well to keep our deck hitting hard, and of course pairs really well with that Harmonic Prodigy. Fire Inscription, another way to get that 2 damage to each opponent every time we cast an instant or sorcery. And then Wilderness Reclamations in our colors. And what this is going to allow us to do is play things on our turn, untap all of our lands at the end of our turn, and then be able to interact with our opponents on their turns to get more modal spell casts. Okay, we talked about the spell payoffs. Let's talk about token payoffs. Adrix and Nev going to double the amount of tokens we make. This is great with, of course, Riku's 3rd ability and a lot of the other spell payoffs we have here. Magnus the Red says that instant sorceries cost 1 less to cast for each token we control. Whenever it deals damage to someone, it makes token. But hey, we're going to have tokens laying around, meaning our spells can get cheaper and cheaper, maybe even just down to colored pips. Metallurgic Summonings is going to make an XX, where X is that spell's mana value anytime we cast an instant sorcery, which is great. Gives us more tokens, and we can actually exile it and return all instant sorceries from our graveyard to our hand if we have 6 or more artifacts, and then play them all again for more and more value. Sorcerer class, once we go up to level 2, we'll actually let all of our tokens tap for mana, which is huge to help us cast some of those spells. Jahira, same thing, letting them all tap for green. And then Shared Animosity is going to help us when we get into combat, making them a little bit bigger, and of course pairs well with, those Balmor type effects where they're going to get trampled as well. But I like Shared Animosity in a deck where we're going to be making a couple different types of tokens. It can really benefit us. But to end up, we're going to talk about some of our classic and some of our more personal favorites as far as big spell value or big spell game enters. You have Mizzix Mastery for 8 mana, can just cast every instant sorcery out of your graveyard. They get exiled and you copy them, but you cast the copy. That can be a way to just cast a bunch of spells in one turn and really blow off. Primal Amulet makes all of our spells cost 1 less to cast. When we flip it over to the backside, it's a land that says whenever we use its mana to cast a spell, we get to copy it for free, which can, again, lead to some big value. Arcane Bombardment, one of my favorite spell-slinging payoffs of all time. Whenever you cast your first instant or sorcery each turn, you exile an instant or sorcery at random from your graveyard, and then you can cast every exiled card with it for free, which is fun, and the longer the game goes, the more value you get. Thousand Year Storm, another classic spells payoff. Each instant or sorcery, copy it for each other one you've cast before this turn. Again, just more spells, more value, especially when we're looking at these modal spells where we want certain things. And then Passion Archaeologist, whenever we cast a spell from exile, this creature deals damage equal to that spell's mana value target opponent. Again, Riku can get those things into exile if we want to, which can turn on this, but also, these abilities like Mizzix Mastery and Arcane Bombardment cast from exile, meaning we can set up this Passionate Archaeologist and let it do some damage for us. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. No deck is ever done. This is my version 1.0 deck list. There's going to be things I'm missing. There's going to be things we can do better. And these are 3 cards that I cut in the process of building the deck that I really liked, but I just cut out for other things. The first is Loot. I think Loot really plays well into that Passionate Archaeologist game plan. At the beginning of the upkeep, of your upkeep, you exile the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of card types among other non-land permanents you control. You can play those cards this turn. Just a way to get that value into exile and cast more things, kind of extend your hand, right? The original Riku, whenever you cast an instant sorcery, you could pay a red and a blue, and if you do, you copy it. Whenever we play a non-token creature, ETBs, we could pay a green and blue so we make copies of it. This is a great ability. It feels good in the deck, but it was just hard to find slots for how many fun things there were in the deck that I wanted to try. And then Smokeless Surprise was another of the new spree cards that I really liked, mainly for its last ability, just being able to kind of give a heroic intervention for creatures with power 4 or greater, but I just wasn't sure how it would fit into the general game plan of the deck. I was wondering how often it would be actually really, really useful most of the time. But let's get into our playtest. This one, we see that Harmonic Prodigy, we see that Shared Animosity, and an Archmage's Charm. Not bad. We are missing 2 of the blue to cast that Archmage's Charm, but we do have that Rampant Growth, so I think we're in a good spot. Love seeing that Veyron next. That's pretty cool. I think we have that odd thing where this Hedge Maze is probably going to come in tapped, right? And it comes to tap no matter what. Game Trail is looking odd here, like it's probably going to come in tapped no matter what. I guess we could put it down untapped here, but then, turn 2, we're still going to see a tap land, right? So might as well put it in, I think, untapped here, and maybe if we draw a basic or something like that, maybe we can get it something good. We don't, so I think we just get the Hedge Maze down here. And we see Iconoclast, which is a great card. We missed out on that turn 2 Rampant Growth, but that's okay. So turn 3 here, we get the Rockfall Veil down. We are able to Riku, if that's what we want to do. We can also Rampant Growth, try to set ourselves up into a better turn for next turn. It's a tough decision. I kind of like the idea of the Rampant Growth, getting another land down, and maybe being able to put down like Iconoclast and Harmonic Prodigy next turn. Get that system moving. I could see the argument for Riku here, but I'm gonna go ahead and go into the library. We're gonna we'll get an island here so that we could try to work our way towards that Archmage's Charm. And nothing to do with that 1 man. I think that's okay. So turn here, I would get the Prodigy and that Iconoclast down. This sets us up for next turn if we want to use something like Sea Devil, or if we want to just keep setting up the board. We miss our land drop, which is kind of a bummer, but I think here I would just get Riku down, prepare for next turn. We can cast the Sea Devil now. I think we have some spots here. So we just cast the Riku and prepare for our next turn. Mystic Sanctuary comes in tapped, but we don't have 3 or more other islands, so we're not going to get its ability. But with our 4 mana, I actually really like the idea of doubling the Harmonic Prodigy and getting another copy of it. And then with Riku, I would probably put a counter on it and get Trample, just to start growing it and getting it bigger. Now we basically have a copy of this Prodigy, and now that means that... well, what it means, I apologize, is that because we chose the mode, Riku would have actually gone off twice, so I guess we'll make the bird here. But now in the future, Riku is going to go off 3 times because of the 2 prodigies, which is pretty good. And then we would have gotten a 1/1 soldier for casting that C double. So look, now our board's getting wider. Maybe Riku takes an attack here since it's a 4/4 trample. If it has an attack, we take it. Otherwise, we move on. 5 mana here, we see a primal command. I like the idea of getting Veyron down just for some more fun, but I feel like that's the only thing we'd be able to do this turn. We could keep the Archmage's Charmed up if we want to, keep some interaction up. Playing a Shared Animosity would get us another soldier. If we wanted to do that, it wouldn't get us a Harmonic Prodigy trigger, but we could Primal Command and actually get 2 triggers, 3 triggers of Riku if we wanted to do that. That could get us a bunch of life. It could bounce a bunch of things. It could get us a creature card into our hand. I think this is what I would do here, right? We would pick the put non-creatures permanent on top of their owner's library. I'm sure that someone has a Mana Rock or something floating around. Maybe we go get a creature, start stacking our hand. And we're going to get 3 copies of Riku. I would probably put I just do the counters and the birds, get 3 counters on Riku, get 3 birds, and get another soldier, right? Because we get to... Whenever we copy an ability, unless it says we could choose a new target for the copy, we're just going to end up getting the same thing. So it's just going to be more and more birds here, which is okay because this is exactly what we want to do with that Shared Animosity. But what I would do is bounce something and then go get a creature. At this point, I would think something like Balmor, since we seem to be pretty darn close to just going wide enough to beat up the game. And this turn, again, take a shot with Riku. Riku got... 3 more counters this turn, so it's a 7/7 with trample. Take a shot at somebody if we want to. This turn we see a land, and we would be able to... We can't Balmor and Archmage's Charm. We could Balmor and Shared Animosity if we wanted to. That would get us another soldier, and it wouldn't give us +1, so that's right, because it needs to be an instant sorcery. This is I think a turn where we're gonna... I guess we could go into the right. We could play Balmor, and then we could play Mystic's Mastery to actually get back the. That's not what I wanted to do. We could do it to get back the C double or the Primal Command. So what's my thought here? On the Mystic's Mastery trigger, we get Iconoclast and Balmor. Balmor actually goes off 3 times because of the Harmonic Prodigies, meaning that all the tokens now get +2, +3/+0 and trample. I guess I'd probably pick... see, if I C double here and make a copy of Prodigy, everything's still going to be on the stack before Prodigy goes off, right? But I think I still probably would. I guess we just C double, make a copy of Harmonic Prodigy, and because we cast that for free, we now get 3 more Balmor triggers, 3 more, and then actually now we get our 3 Riku triggers. So I'd probably put probably all the counters on Riku, make it even bigger, because it's now it was a 7/7. It'd be then a 10/7 on Balmor's the first spell. We'd give it 3 more counters, so it'd be a 13/10, and then 3 more from Balmor. So now it's a 16/10. With trample, that's probably going to nail into somebody. All of these right now are +6 0 in trample, which means we now have some energy in the air to potentially hit somebody out. And then literally all we need to do next turn is, put down a Veyron and put down an Archmage's Charm, and then we probably just win the game taking everybody else, because Balmor is going to get tripled, 3 actually. Well, Actually, it'd be 6, wouldn't it? Because these would trigger twice. No, sorry, they're additive. I apologize. They're additive. It's either 3 or 6, but still, I mean, I think that's the point where that game probably just ends, right, with all those tokens we have laying around. But let's get into playtest number 2, keeping a 3-lander. Catch your Triome there and 2 other lands. So we have our Temur. We could potentially get Riku down turn 3 if we wanted to. Get the Triome down tapped turn 1 since we can't do anything with it anyway. I'd get the Rootbound Crag down and let's just go searching with that Nature's Lore. We really have nothing else better we want to do this turn anyway. Cinderglade could be it. I kind of like the idea of getting one of the lands from Mirzakarla Manor, the ones that let us surveil, just so we can get an idea of what's on top and know what our next turn might be. So I think I'd go for the Hedge Maze here. It's going to come in and surveil us 1. I like Shared Animosity. Let's leave it on top. All right, turn 3. I think we get the Buviak in since it comes in tapped and just slam Riku here. Get ready for next turn where we could Atarka's Command and Shared Animosity, or Atarka's Command and get the Passionate down. I think this could be a big turn for us. Or we leave with the Prismari Command. That could also be an option. You know, Passionate works really well when you're using Riku's first ability, but remember that Riku, we have to play it this turn, so it would be a good ability to use to start, right? I think I like passing here, and then maybe just, unless I really think I have a good attack. If I have a good attack, then maybe I just use, like, well, I don't have a land to put down. Maybe use something like Prismari Command to deal 2 damage to something, you know, make a treasure, get a counter and a bird from Riku, and then maybe try to use Is It Charm or, like, you know, Atarka's Command on somebody's turn. So let's do that. Let's say we get a bird with Riku. Give it a counter. Let's say we make an attack, right? Let's say we get the treasure, right, from Prismari Command, just so we have something. Maybe we try to leave up this Is It Charm or the Atarka's Command, just in case our opponent hands something. And I think this could be fun. If there's something that's worth countering, maybe we just counter it with Is It Charm. If there's something worth dealing damage to our opponents, or we just want to fire this Atarka's Command just to get it fired off to get another bird and another counter on it into our next turn. I don't know, but there is the option now to keep these 2 up. Come back to our turn, unfortunately no land, but we do have 6 mana. I mean, we could, I'm thinking Shared Animosity. Let's actually just say let's say we Atarka Command on our opponent's turn, you know, just to get 3 mana off, get the bird, get the token. I think that's counter what I do there. Play the Shared Animosity. I think I would just get the Pyromancer down, start stacking up more tokens, and call it a turn here. You could conversely get that Archaeologist down, but I kind of like the idea of now that we have this, keeping it going more wide. Here, okay, this is a more fun turn. We still have that 6 mana. C double seems pretty good. We could make a copy of Young Pyromancer if we wanted to get some value. We could Is It Charged and then, like, return the favor. I think I like the C double here. We make a copy of Pyromancer. Let's see, we would make another bird. We would make an elemental, right, with Young Pyromancer, put another counter, or sorry, yeah, we make the bird instead of the counter. And then, you know, maybe take an attack with one of the birds this turn, set up for maybe a bigger attack next turn where we could swing with 3/1 birds instead of 1/1 birds. And I think we're in the same spot we were last game, where we're just going to keep building up value and trying to get either a wide token board state or, you know, Riku big enough that it could start dealing damage to our opponents. But let me know, what do you think of Riku down in the comments section below. It's an interesting deck. I think it's really fun. It's got some fun stuff. If you've been looking for a Temur Spellslinger deck, I think this could be for you. I'd love to hear what you think down in the comments, and I will catch you guys next time.